Hey, Pastor Jason here. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the art of preaching, homiletics. And I wanted to look at this maybe a little bit differently and focus a little bit more on the art of it. Um, when I was a little guy in high school, um, I wanted to be an art teacher. Um, I took every art class that our high school had to offer. Took all the basic art classes, ceramics, drawing, painting, computer graphics, all of those things. And then I took all of the advanced classes, and I took a lot of those twice. Our high school offered a lot of electives, and so every elective that I had, I used that as an opportunity um, to take an art class. I wanted to be an elementary school art teacher. Long story short, I got called into the ministry, and here I am today. Um, so when I look at preaching, I look at it through the eyes of an artist. I see each book of the Bible as a different color, but also common colors. Dr. George Westlake Sr. told us in a sermon one time that the best way to interpret the Bible is with the Bible. And so, for example, the Pentateuch, would be all the primary colors, and each book afterwards, would be a secondary colors. And as an artist, I try to find complementary colors, supporting verses, like how orange and purple make each color pop, and things like that. So for an example, as a pastor, I've preached out of James quite often, and one of my favorite verses is James 2:17, and it says in the Jerusalem Bible, "Faith is like that. If good works do not go with it, it is quite dead." And then we focus on the works part, right? And we look at its good works, and so I take the verse in Proverbs 21:5, and it says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." So when we look at good works, we don't just look at like a knee-jerk reaction or something that's not planned. Proverbs tells us that the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. So in the things that I want to do for God, I really want to focus more on being diligent. Planning things out. Having a purpose. I love his name. Louis Giglio talked about painters, and how they sketch out really lightly on the canvas before they paint. They're painting, the picture. And so it's really light, but those are the plans, of the picture, where to go, how to go, and things like that. The end result is much better, when you have a plan. It takes us from the level of good and it elevates it to great. In art, we oftentimes are looking at ways to break the rules and come up with something new, something fresh. But in preaching, there's one rule that we should never break, and that's taking verses out of context. So once again, we fall back on that verse in Proverbs that the plans of the diligent surely lead to abundance. If we plan our sermons out, if we take the time to be diligent, in research, and finding out what those words mean, who was the author speaking to, the time period that he spoke to and the culture, doing that work, really brings those verses to life, but then they support the other verses, in such a dynamic way, that it's truth, we're following the path of truth, so I hope this was, something good that you can use while you're writing sermons. Maybe thinking as an artist, sometimes using different verses in dynamic ways to help support your main text. And I hope you are able to take the level of good and raise it to the level of great by doing this. Thanks. Have a good day.